Federation. The ceremony, hosted virtually due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, marked the first bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Harris and High Commissioner Chatterjee. High Commissioner Chatterjee underscored the importance of Canada's relationship with the government and noted that Canada will support the Federation in several key areas, including higher education, gender equality, and the empowerment of women and girls. Ms. Chatterjee said she looks forward to deepening the bilateral relationship between Canada and St. Kitts and Nevis over the next 3 years. The St. Kitts Diabetes Association is continuing its 5-week health screening of students of primary and high schools in St. Kitts. On Thursday morning, the association, in collaboration with the Lions Club, visited the Newtown Primary School. Speaking to ZIZ at the beginning of the screening exercise on March 4, Public Relations Officer of the Diabetes Association, Dr. Reginald O'Loughlin, said the aim is to identify persons who may be at risk of developing juvenile diabetes or may be exposed to other conditions. The screening is done once a week on Thursdays, and over the next few weeks, the association will visit the Dr. William Connor Primary School, the Washington Archibald High School, and the Charles E. Mills Secondary School. The Ministry of Education and the Department of Social Services each received a donation of 5,000 disposable face masks from Island Purified Water on Tuesday. The handing over ceremony was held at the company's headquarters in Newton Ground. Speaking on behalf of Island Purified Water, Financial Manager Fernella Gums-Liebert said, quote, "Island Purified Water has taken its civic responsibility very seriously. Donations and contributions have been given to several sporting disciplines, educational and religious institutions, and other activities and organizations," end quote. Mrs. Gums noted that the donations are a way for the company to fulfill its mandate to, quote, "better and empower the lives of the citizens and residents of the Federation in whichever way they can," end quote. Accepting the donation on behalf of the Ministry of Education, Permanent Secretary William Vincent Hodge expressed gratitude. He thanked the managing team of Island Purified Water for continuously fulfilling their civic responsibility to society. The Permanent Secretary appealed to the secondary school students and young citizens to continue wearing their face masks correctly and at all times, reminding them that failure to wear the masks correctly will incur a fine of $100 in accordance with the law. Anne Wigley, Deputy Director in the Department of Social Services, expressed gratitude to Island Purified Water for its kind and timely donation on behalf of her ministry and the elderly. We now move to news on the regional scene. Brazil's former president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, is slamming the Bolsonaro's government's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, calling it moronic. Lula is back in the political limelight after his corruption convictions were overturned this week, but he has not confirmed if he'll be running for president again next year. Al Jazeera's Monica Yanikev reports.
He may not yet have been proven innocent, but Brazil's former president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is no longer a felon. And he's back on the political scene with an eye on next year's presidential elections.
I know that I was victim of the biggest legal lie in the 500 years of history. I know my wife died due to the high pressure, and the stroke came faster. I was forbidden to even see my brother inside a coffin.
Lula's speech on Wednesday was the first since a Supreme Court judge overturned the corruption convictions, which put him behind bars for 18 months and stripped him of his political rights. Banned from the 2018 elections, the leader of Brazil's left-wing Workers' Party is now seen as a political threat to President Jair Bolsonaro. He says it's too soon to talk about next year's presidential race, but he spoke like a candidate.
Lula is already a very popular leader. Lula presents himself as a moderate leader. That this time, and I think that the first speech that he gave this Wednesday was an attempt to show that himself is a moderate. It can put together different groups, different sectors of the Brazilian society. And so I think that he's a problem, a real problem for Bolsonaro and for Bolsonaro's attempt to be reelected.
Lula blasted Bolsonaro for downplaying the COVID-19 pandemic, which has already claimed the lives of almost 270,000 Brazilians, the second largest death toll after the United States.
We have a president who says COVID-19 is a small flu, who says that only cowards fear the virus, and that he does not because he's an athlete. This is not the way a president should act in a civilized world.
Bolsonaro points out that Lula is still not off the legal hook. The decision to throw out the corruption charges was based on a technicality. The Supreme Court judge said Brazil's former president had been tried by a court in the southern city of Curitiba that had no jurisdiction over his case. He may still be retried in the capital, Brasilia. There are many legal twists and turns in this case. The Supreme Court still has to decide whether the judge who convicted Lula was impartial or had his own political agenda and colluded with the prosecution. Meanwhile, Lula has started negotiating an alliance with other left-wing parties and even conservative politicians who are not happy with President Jair Bolsonaro. Monica Yanakiev, Al Jazeera, Rio de Janeiro.
In St. Lucia, some 10,437 persons have received a shot of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet first made the announcement on his Facebook page on Tuesday. The Health Ministry also confirmed the figures in a press release on Wednesday, March 10. More in this report.
There has been no dearth of enthusiasm as persons continue to turn up in droves to get their COVID-19 jabs. Since Lucia rolled out its vaccination drive on February 17, 2021, with the main focus on frontliners, senior citizens, and people living with chronic health conditions. Despite hesitancy when talks of vaccines first surfaced, health officials are satisfied with the public's response thus far, with thousands vaccinated in the third week of the island's immunization campaign.
As of Tuesday, March 9, 2021, a total of 10,437 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine has been administered. The response at the various vaccination sites has been very encouraging. This level of interest we see as an appreciation by our citizens of the health benefits of the vaccines and the opportunity it presents for regaining some measure of normality as we continue to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The vaccination campaign has been undertaken by bringing together partners across all sectors and with a wide range of interest. This partnership has started with us within the health sector, with the public and private healthcare practitioners undertaking national vaccination efforts collaboratively.
Last week, residents in Vieux-Fort complained of a lack of accommodations for persons with disabilities and senior citizens at the health center. National Immunization Manager Tekla Jean-Baptiste says health officials will be facilitating home visits for persons who are unable to access the sites.
The Ministry of Health is aware that there are individuals with special needs, including the elderly and people with mobility challenges who are unable to access the vaccination sites. These individuals, their family or caregivers are encouraged to contact the nearest community wellness center to register their loved ones. Vaccination will be facilitated through home visits by the community health nurses. To date, majority of the elderly homes have been covered and will be completed in the coming week.
Omnibus operators, educators, and hospitality workers are encouraged to get the vaccine. These individuals are urged to walk with a proper form of ID when visiting the vaccine centers.
Internationally, the U.S. House of Representatives has approved a $1.9 trillion emergency spending measure designed to mitigate the financial toll of the coronavirus pandemic, putting the United States economy on a path to recovery. The measure also extends unemployment benefits and increases funding to ramp up vaccine distribution. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher reports.
To cheers and applause, the House delivered Joe Biden's first significant victory as president, a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill, and all done without a single Republican vote in support.
This is a momentous day in the history of our country because we have passed historic, consequential, and transformative legislation.
Thanks goes to the senators who are standing here, our great committee chairs, and all of our senators who pulled together as one unit, beating back killer amendments, making sure the bill was as strong as possible.
The bill has overwhelming support across the country, 61% approval, but Republicans claim it spends far too much and delivers far too little.
We are here today, Mr. Speaker, because Democrats made a choice to put their own partisan political ambitions ahead of the needs of the working class.
The deal delivers $1,400 stimulus checks to every qualifying American, targeted mainly at lower incomes. There's $350 billion for states, cities and tribal governments, $130 billion for schools, $40 billion for further education, and $50 billion in relief for small businesses. The package was a big pre-election promise from Biden. He wanted to do it with Republican support, but was happy to push on without it.
Everything in the American Rescue Plan addresses a real need, including investments to fund our entire vaccination effort, more vaccines, more vaccinators, and more vaccination sites. Millions more Americans will get tested, including home testing. Schools will soon have the funding and resources to reopen safely, a national imperative.
Biden is expected to sign the bill when it hits his desk on Friday. The administration says the first checks could start going out soon, with many people receiving their money before the end of the month. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Environmental campaigners in Britain are warning of the impact of disposable masks. They say most people don't realize the cheapest masks are made of plastic and end up in waste dumps or discarded in nature. More in this Al Jazeera report.
Blue face masks are a common sight in city centres around Britain. Currently only essential shops are open, but as lockdowns are loosened, people will still be wearing masks for months or even years to come. And that means an ongoing nightmare for the environment.
Both legs are swollen. They will need some anti-inflammatories.
This video shows staff at a wildlife hospital helping a bird that's been caught up in discarded litter. It's a face mask, one of the disposable surgical face coverings made of plastic. Campaign group Keep Britain Tidy have found disposable masks and gloves at 14% of sites they've surveyed since last summer. They say such discarded items are now even more common than plastic bags were before a compulsory charge for the bags came in. More than 100 million disposable face masks like this get thrown away across the UK every single week. That's enough to cover more than 230 soccer pitches. Now, a recent survey found 70% of people using disposable masks didn't realise they were using single-use plastics, and nearly 1 in 5 thought they could be recycled, which isn't the case.
I know it's going to be waste, but these are the quickest and the most easiest ones to use, put on, take out, go again, do you know what I mean?
With these types that I've got on, they're not washable, they're not reusable, so you have to be mindful where you put them.
I have noticed a lot more of them lying about as people discard them, but I haven't given it any real thought as to what happens to them afterwards.
The problem with single-use plastic masks is they'll end up in a landfill site like this, in an incinerator, or simply discarded. Researchers at University College London say if every person in the UK used one disposable mask every day for a year, it would create 124,000 tonnes of waste, half of which would be unrecyclable contaminated plastic.
When we use it in healthcare, they're classed as clinical waste. So then healthcare workers will put it in the yellow bins. So then they are separated from their general waste and then taken to incineration. For the public domain, there isn't actually this system yet.
At this factory, they're trying to provide an alternative. Their masks are based on specifications from Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool, which gets a percentage of the sales. They have an antiviral coating and, like other such masks, can be washed and reused.
It had to be something that was practical, comfortable, easy to wear and can be produced locally. So the mask and the design that we've come up with is ethical, sustainable and entirely made in the UK.
It looks like face masks will be part of many people's lives, at least in the short term. Whatever kind they wear, they're being urged to consider where it comes from and where it'll end up. Nadine Barber, Al Jazeera, London.
And now for the weather. Present weather shows partly cloudy skies with a gentle breeze of 10 miles per hour from the east-northeast. The temperature for today is 29 degrees Celsius or 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 4 to 6 feet. And the weather for today and tonight will be partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:20 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow at 6:21 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.